Have you ever wondered how a single bank started in a cramped alley could end up influencing wars, governments, and the rise of nations? This isn't fiction. It's the true story of a family that mastered the art of trust, timing, and information. A family that built the bank that built an empire. It all began in the year 1744 in Frankfurt, Germany. A small, crowded street called the Judengasse, the Jewish alley. Among the noisy markets and narrow brick houses lived a young man named Mayer Amschel Rothschild. Mayer wasn't born rich. His father traded coins, trinkets, and second-hand antiques. But young Mayer had something else, an eye for detail and a hunger for opportunity. He loved studying rare coins not just for their shine, but for the stories stamped on them, the kings, the empires, the value people gave to metal. Soon, he realized something powerful. Money isn't just metal. It's trust, belief printed into gold and silver. That belief became his business. Mayer began trading coins, but not to the public, to collectors and nobles. He treated every transaction with careful respect. In a time when Jews faced discrimination, trust was his only currency, and he built it brick by brick. He began supplying coins to a local prince, William IX of Hesse, one of the richest men in Europe. Imagine that, a poor merchant earning the trust of a prince. How? Not by bribery, not by greed, but by honesty and precision. Mayer would say, "My reputation is worth more than any coin I sell." That line, his invisible wealth, became the foundation of the Rothschild legacy. By the 1780s, Mayer had grown his small coin business into a financial network. He married, had 5 sons, and taught them the same lessons. Study languages, know people, protect each other, and never forget family comes before fortune. He had a plan, a vision so bold few could imagine it. He sent each son to a major European capital. Amschel stayed in Frankfurt. Nathan went to London, James to Paris, Solomon to Vienna, and Carl to Naples. Each one carried not just family money, but family trust. Together, they became the world's first international banking network. In a world without telephones, internet, or airplanes, they used couriers on horseback, coded letters, and family loyalty to move information faster than kings. In the early 1800s, Europe was on fire. Napoleon Bonaparte was marching across the continent. Countries were collapsing. Currencies were unstable. Governments needed money desperately. And the Rothschilds had what everyone else did not: speed. Their couriers on horseback could deliver messages from Paris to London in a fraction of the normal time. While empires fought on battlefields, the Rothschilds fought on paper, moving gold, credit, and trust across borders. When Napoleon fell in 1815, the world waited for confirmation of his defeat. But Nathan Rothschild in London already knew, hours before anyone else. He used that information to make bold moves on the stock exchange. Some say he made a fortune that day. Others say it's a myth. But one thing is true. He understood before anyone else that information is power, and that made him one of the richest men in England. After the wars, Europe needed rebuilding. Nations were broke, but the Rothschilds had the capital, the trust, and the reach to help them recover. They financed governments: Britain, Austria, Prussia, France. They funded railways that connected cities. They invested in mining, shipping, and even the Suez Canal, the lifeline between Europe and Asia. Their money wasn't just money. It was the fuel of progress. Imagine this:
a banker's signature in London helping build the bridge in Austria, a railway in France, and a harbor in Italy. All connected by family letters, sealed with a red wax crest. By the 1830s, if you followed the money, you'd find one name, Rothschild. They weren't just bankers anymore. They were architects of modern Europe. By 1822, the Austrian emperor granted the Rothschild brothers noble titles. They were no longer just merchants. They were barons. But with fame came suspicion. People whispered, how can one family control so much? Cartoonists drew them as puppet masters, kings in the shadows. Yet what most didn't see was the truth. The Rothschilds weren't pulling strings. They were building systems, safer, faster, more reliable ones, when Europe's banks were unstable. Their stability kept governments functioning. Their trust kept economies breathing. Still, the myth of the hidden hand stuck, and in many ways, it still does. The mid-1800s were the golden years. Rothschild houses in London, Paris, Vienna, Naples, and Frankfurt were each power centers. They financed wars and peace, revolutions and restorations. They advised kings and ministers. Their offices, elegant but modest, became symbols of reliability. When a government needed funds, one question mattered. Will the Rothschilds back us? If the answer was yes, investors followed. If no, interest rates soared. Their influence wasn't about politics. It was about confidence. They became the invisible heart of Europe's financial system. And yet, through all their power, they followed Mayer's old rule. Stay humble. Stay quiet. Let your results speak. But no empire lasts forever. The world changed. New banks rose. The Industrial Revolution turned into the machine age, and later, the Age of Nations. Wars returned, bigger, deadlier. World War I, then World War II. Borders shifted, monarchs fell, and anti-Semitism, the hatred that Mayer once faced, quietly returned, violently. In 1938, Nazi Germany targeted Jewish bankers. The Rothschilds lost property, art, and estates. The French branch was nationalized in 1982. The old model of private family-run banks was dying. But the spirit, the idea, lived on. They evolved into modern investment and asset management firms. They adapted again to survive. Today, the Rothschild name still exists. Rothschild & Company operates in over 40 countries. They manage billions, advise governments, and support philanthropy and art. But beyond wealth, their legacy lies in principles that still apply in our world. Build networks, not just businesses. Protect your reputation like treasure. Information is power, but trust is wealth. Their models shape how global finance operates today. International banking, cross-border investing, or even instant money transfers, all rooted in the Rothschild playbook from 200 years ago. What can we learn from the bank that built an empire? First, speed matters. The Rothschilds won because they were faster in understanding the world. Today, information moves even faster, but wisdom is slower. Learn to pause, study, and then move decisively. Second, relationships outlast profits. They didn't win by greed, but by loyalty to family, partners, and nations. In our digital age, relationships remain the ultimate capital. Third, stay invisible when others shout. While empires rose and fell, the Rothschilds rarely made public noise. Their quiet confidence was their moat. Today, real power still moves quietly. And finally, every empire begins with belief. A poor coin dealer once believed that trust could be turned into gold, and he was right. When we think about empires, we picture armies, kings, and conquest. But sometimes the real empires are built not with swords, but with signatures. The Rothschilds didn't conquer lands, they connected them. They didn't build palaces, they built systems. They didn't fight wars, they financed the peace that followed. And in so doing, they wrote a silent chapter of human progress. So the next time you see a bank, a market, or a headline about global finance, remember that somewhere, in a dusty Frankfurt alley centuries ago, a man looked at a coin and saw not money, but a story that would one day build an empire. Thank you for watching The Bank That Built an Empire. If this story inspired you, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe.